Back in June 2025, Israel launched a surprise operation, Operation Rising Lion, targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure in what it described as a preemptive move to neutralize a growing existential threat. This move, widely interpreted as an escalation rather than a deterrent, led to immediate Iranian retaliation. Missiles and drones rained down on Israeli cities and military installations, some intercepted by the Iron Dome and Arrow systems, while others caused considerable structural and psychological damage. Iran's supreme leader framed the Israeli offensive as an act of war, calling on all branches of the Islamic Republic's military and its regional proxies to mobilize in response. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Diplomacy and Discourse Podcast. I'm your host AR, and today's episode is one I wish we didn't have to make, but we must. The Middle East is once again at a boiling point. After months of rising tensions, Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, and the dominoes began to fall. From the skies over Tehran to the waters of the Red Sea, from the streets of Gaza to the borders of Lebanon, the region is being reshaped in real time. And the world is watching with bated breath. This isn't just about missiles and airstrikes. It's about the collapse of diplomacy, the fragility of power, and the dangerous dance between domestic politics and international warfare. In this episode, we're breaking down what happened, why it matters, and what comes next. The escalation resulted in significant civilian casualties and widespread fear among the populations of both nations. In Israel, citizens faced the constant threat of incoming attacks, leading to frequent trips to bomb shelters and disruptions to daily life. Similarly, Iranian civilians experienced the fear of further conflict and potential foreign intervention, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and instability that affected their daily routines and overall sense of security. The international community responded with a mix of condemnation, calls for restraint, and urgent diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation. The United Nations convened an emergency session, with member states expressing concern over the potential for a wider regional conflict. Major powers, including the United States, Russia, and China, urged both Israel and Iran to engage in dialogue and explore peaceful solutions to their disputes, while some countries also offered to mediate in hopes of preventing further violence. Social media played a crucial role in shaping public perception of the conflict, as platforms like X, Facebook, and Instagram were flooded with real-time updates, videos, and personal accounts from individuals on the ground. This influx of information often blurred the lines between verified facts and misinformation, influencing public sentiment and fueling emotions on both sides. Hashtags calling for peace or further aggression trended globally, highlighting the deep divisions and varying narratives that emerged as the situation unfolded. Misinformation in international conflicts can escalate tensions and hinder diplomatic efforts by spreading false narratives and inflaming public emotions. It can lead to mistrust between nations, making it more difficult for leaders to engage in constructive dialogue and reach peaceful resolutions. Furthermore, misinformation can manipulate public opinion, potentially swaying citizens to support aggressive actions that they might otherwise oppose, thereby complicating efforts to achieve lasting peace. Global powers found themselves navigating a complex geopolitical landscape, balancing their own strategic interests with the need to stabilize the region. The United States, with its strong ties to Israel, sought to support its ally while also preventing the conflict from spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, Russia and China, both with significant regional interests and alliances, emphasized the importance of multilateral dialogue and offered to host peace talks, positioning themselves as potential arbiters in the crisis. The escalation has the potential to destabilize the entire Middle East region, leading to prolonged conflict and economic hardship for surrounding countries. Long-term consequences could include a refugee crisis as civilians flee the affected areas, and a devastating impact on regional economies, further exacerbating tensions and mistrust among neighboring nations. Additionally, the conflict may draw in global powers, complicating diplomatic relations and potentially leading to a broader international confrontation. Within days of the conflict, the Red Sea was engulfed in confrontation. The Houthis in Yemen, emboldened by Iranian support, launched drone attacks on U.S. and Israeli vessels, attempting to shut down maritime trade routes. Simultaneously, Hezbollah escalated its rocket fire from southern Lebanon, pushing northern Israel into a state of emergency. What had initially been a localized war in Gaza had now expanded into a full-spectrum regional crisis involving multiple state and non-state actors. This war is not merely kinetic. It is symbolic of a deeper realignment in the Middle East, one that challenges the post-Cold War regional order built on U.S. military dominance and selective diplomacy. This realignment reflects a broader contest for influence, with Iran and its allies seeking to challenge the existing power structures and assert their role in shaping the region's future. The conflict underscores the fragility of the current order and the potential for further escalation. Diplomatic efforts are crucial in de-escalating such multifaceted conflicts, as they provide a platform for dialogue and negotiation among the involved parties. Engaging regional powers and international organizations can help mediate tensions, facilitating ceasefire agreements, and paving the way for long-term peace solutions. However, the success of these efforts often hinges on the willingness of the parties to compromise and the influence of external actors who can sway the dynamics of the negotiations. One major challenge is the deep-rooted mistrust between regional actors, which often complicates efforts to find common ground. Additionally, the involvement of powerful external players with competing interests can further polarize the situation, making consensus difficult to achieve. Lastly, the asymmetrical nature of the conflict, with both state and non-state actors, adds layers of complexity to diplomatic negotiations. Non-state actors, such as armed militias and terrorist groups, significantly influence the dynamics of conflicts by operating outside traditional state structures. Their involvement often leads to unpredictable and prolonged hostilities, as they can act independently of state control and disrupt diplomatic efforts. Moreover, their ability to exploit local grievances and garner support complicates the peace process, as addressing their demands requires nuanced approaches beyond conventional state-to-state diplomacy. Economic incentives can play a pivotal role in diplomacy by providing tangible benefits that encourage parties to engage in negotiations and make concessions. Offering economic aid, investment opportunities, or trade agreements can serve as powerful motivators for conflicting parties to consider peaceful resolutions. Additionally, leveraging economic sanctions or lifting them as part of a negotiated settlement can be an effective tool to influence the behavior of state and non-state actors involved in the conflict. However, relying too heavily on economic incentives can have drawbacks. For one, it may lead to short-term solutions rather than addressing underlying issues, as parties might agree to terms solely for immediate financial gain. Additionally, economic incentives can sometimes be perceived as coercive, leading to further resentment and resistance among parties who feel pressured into compliance. Lastly, there is a risk that economic aid could be misallocated or misused, failing to reach those most in need and potentially fueling corruption or power imbalances. Israel's approach during this period caused frustration within the Trump administration, particularly due to its reluctance to cooperate fully in negotiations. The Israeli government's hardline stance and expansion of settlements were seen as obstacles to advancing peace efforts, leading to tensions with U.S. officials who were eager to broker a deal. Despite pressure from the Trump administration, Israel's actions often appeared to prioritize domestic political interests over fostering a cooperative, diplomatic environment. Domestic politics played a significant role in shaping Israel's decisions during this period. The Israeli government, driven by the need to maintain political support and cater to key constituencies, often prioritized nationalistic policies such as settlement expansion. These decisions were influenced by internal dynamics, including coalition pressures and public opinion, which frequently overshadowed international diplomatic considerations and contributed to the complexity of reaching a peace agreement. So, Israel's actions, particularly the expansion of settlements, complicated peace negotiations by creating physical and political barriers to any one-state or two-state solutions. This expansion often fueled tensions with Palestinian leaders, who viewed it as an encroachment on land designated for a future Palestinian state. Additionally, the hardline stance taken by Israel diminished trust and willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue, making it more challenging to reach a consensus on key issues. The expansion of settlements had a profound impact on Palestinian communities, disrupting their daily lives and limiting their access to essential resources. Many Palestinians faced displacement from their homes and restrictions on movements, leading to increased economic hardship and social unrest. This encroachment on Palestinian land also exacerbated feelings of injustice and resentment, further complicating efforts to build trust and achieve lasting peace in the region. Many international actors have expressed concerns over Israel's policies, particularly regarding settlement expansion in the West Bank. The European Union and United Nations have frequently condemned these actions, arguing that they undermine the prospects of a one-state or two-state solution. Meanwhile, some countries have sought to apply diplomatic pressure through resolutions and calls for Israel to adhere to international law, while others have maintained strong bilateral ties, complicating a unified international response. The tensions between the US and Israel during this period had significant repercussions for the peace process in the region. The strained relationship made it difficult to present a united front in negotiations, weakening the overall effectiveness of diplomatic efforts. Additionally, the lack of alignment between the two allies may have emboldened other regional actors to further entrench their positions, complicating the prospects for a peaceful resolution. To overcome the negotiation stalemate, it is essential to foster open channels of communication between all parties involved, including back-channel diplomacy to build trust. Engaging in third-party mediation with the help of neutral international bodies could provide fresh perspectives and propose balanced solutions. Additionally, confidence-building measures such as freezing settlement expansion and improving living conditions for Palestinians could lay the groundwork for more constructive discussions. One potential diplomatic strategy is to establish a multilateral forum where all stakeholders, including regional and international actors, can voice their concerns and collaborate on a roadmap to peace. Another approach could involve appointing a special envoy with the mandate to facilitate dialogue and ensure that both parties adhere to agreed upon commitments. Furthermore, leveraging economic incentives, such as increased development aid and investment opportunities, could encourage cooperation and foster a more conducive environment for negotiations. The interplay of these dynamics has significantly impacted regional stability, as the ongoing tensions between Israel and Palestine have often escalated into violence, contributing to instability in the broader Middle East. The lack of progress in peace negotiations has also led to frustration and disenchantment among the Palestinian population, potentially fueling further unrest and radicalization. Moreover, the strained US-Israel relations have created a power vacuum that other regional actors might exploit, leading to shifts in alliances and further destabilizing the area. If these diplomatic efforts fail to yield tangible results, the long-term consequences could include a deepening of hostilities and a perpetuation of the status quo, with both sides becoming more entrenched in their positions. This could lead to prolonged conflict with period flare-ups of violence that destabilize the region and hinder economic development. Additionally, the lack of a viable peace process may inspire extremist groups to gain influence, potentially leading to increased security threats both locally and globally. Long-term solutions for regional peace could involve establishing a comprehensive framework that addresses core issues such as borders, refugees, and the status of Jerusalem. Additionally, fostering regional cooperation through initiatives like a Middle Eastern Union could promote economic integration and reduce tensions. Engaging civil society and grassroots movements in dialogue and reconciliation efforts might also help build trust and understanding between communities, paving the way for sustainable peace. The future stability of the Middle East hinges on several potential scenarios. In one scenario, increased diplomatic engagement and regional cooperation could lead to enduring peace agreements, fostering economic growth and collaboration among nations. Alternatively, continued tensions and external interventions may exacerbate conflicts, resulting in prolonged instability and humanitarian crises. A balanced approach that combines diplomatic efforts with economic incentives and security measures could pave the way for a more stable and prosperous Middle East. Ignoring diplomatic efforts could lead to escalating conflicts and a breakdown in communication between nations. This may result in increased military confrontations, displacement of populations, and a rise in extremism. Ultimately, the absence of diplomatic solutions could perpetuate cycles of violence and hinder the region's development and stability. In a more optimistic scenario, technological advancements and investment in sustainable energy could transform the region into a leader in innovation and environmental stewardship. Conversely, if unresolved political disputes and resource scarcity persist, the region might experience heightened competition and conflict over vital resources. A third possibility could see the emergence of new regional alliances that shift power dynamics and redefine geopolitical landscapes. Climate change is likely to exacerbate resource scarcity in the Middle East by intensifying droughts, reducing water availability, and affecting agricultural productivity. As temperatures rise and weather patterns become more unpredictable, the region could face increased competition for limited resources such as water and arable land. This could further strain relations between nations and communities, potentially leading to conflicts over access to these essential resources. Technology can play a pivotal role in addressing resource management challenges in the Middle East. Advanced water conservation techniques, such as precision irrigation and desalination, can help maximize the efficient use of scarce water resources. Moreover, utilizing data analytics and satellite monitoring can enhance agricultural productivity and optimize resource allocation, ultimately reducing tensions over limited resources. So, to revive peace negotiations, fostering inclusive dialogue among all stakeholders is crucial, ensuring that the voices of marginalized groups are heard and considered in the decision-making process. Establishing neutral mediation platforms supported by international organizations can help build trust and facilitate constructive conversations. Additionally, leveraging economic incentives, such as trade agreements or development aid, can encourage cooperation and mutual investment in peaceful outcomes. International organizations can act as neutral arbitrators, providing a platform for dialogue and facilitating negotiations between conflicting parties. They can also offer technical and financial support for sustainable development projects, helping to alleviate resource scarcity and reduce tensions. Furthermore, by enforcing international laws and norms, these organizations can hold parties accountable and encourage adherence to agreements, promoting long-term stability in the region. To implement this balanced approach, governments and organizations should prioritize forming interdisciplinary teams that combine expertise in technology, diplomacy, and sustainable development. Establishing regional partnerships can facilitate the sharing of best practices and technological innovations in resource management. Additionally, creating clear frameworks for international cooperation and accountability will ensure that all parties are committed to achieving equitable resource distribution and peaceful resolutions. Potential economic incentives for the region include establishing free trade zones that encourage cross-border commerce and investment. These zones can attract foreign investors and create jobs, boosting local economies and fostering interdependence among neighboring countries. Additionally, offering development aid for infrastructure projects, such as renewable energy installations or transportation networks, can stimulate economic growth and improve regional connectivity, further incentivizing cooperation and peaceful collaboration. So what does this all mean? It means that peace in the Middle East remains not just elusive, but structurally fragile. Every attempted negotiation, every ceasefire, and every round of talks seems to collapse under the weight of mistrust, power struggles, and competing narratives. Operation Rising Lion wasn't just a military gambit. It was a geopolitical earthquake. Iran's response, the mobilization of its proxies, the regional chaos, they all point to one thing: we're trapped in a cycle of pressure, provocation, and paralysis. And unless something radical changes, in leadership, in strategy, in empathy, this cycle won't break. It will only spin faster. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll keep bringing you these stories, these breakdowns, and these hard conversations, because we need them now more than ever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and shoot me your thoughts at diplomacyanddiscourse@gmail.com. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay engaged.